Hello guys, welcome to the fiction series. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto was the Black Fox of the Jump City Assassin? Part 2. If you want more awesome fan fiction like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So without wasting any time, let's get into the video. Naruto was having a pretty good morning. He managed to sleep like a baby throughout the night, and his morning workout left him feeling more rejuvenated than ever. Even while he sat on his couch eating his breakfast, the cereal just seemed to taste better than usual. Honestly, Naruto didn't know why, but he felt like today was going to be a special day for him. In his mind he could picture everything now. He would keep his store open for a few hours and get no customers whatsoever. Then he would head down to Repairs of Idiots and retrieve the phone he left with Shikamaru, which would ultimately lead the blonde assassin to Mizuki, finally placing Naruto on track to avenging his family and finding those responsible for the incident. The day is finally gonna go my way, Naruto announced to himself with a large smile on his face. The blonde then reached over his coffee table and placed his cereal down for a moment. Next, by extending his arm, Naruto reached out for the TV remote. Though as the remote was within his grasp, the cell phone sitting beside Naruto started to blast the loudest death metal music that Naruto had ever heard. Startled by the sudden noise, Naruto freaked out and kicked the table, causing his cereal to spill over its contents onto the floor. No. Naruto cursed as he sprung upward and stubbed his toe, making him to wince in pain and jump up and down. Damn. Looking down, Naruto noticed the phone on his coffee table. It was still blasting the ringtone loud and clear. While on the phone screen, a picture of his mother giving a peace sign and a wink could be seen. And so ends my perfect day, Naruto sighed as he bent over and grabbed the phone. Then by taking an even longer sigh, he slumped over and answered the phone. Hey mom. Pardon. Harley screamed happily through the phone. Though next, Naruto could hear her huff through the speaker. Why haven't you called me yet? Naruto rolled his eyes and walked over to his kitchen in order to retrieve some paper towels. I've been a little busy these past few days, Naruto replied as he walked back to his coffee table with towels in hand to clean his mess. That's no excuse, Buster. Harley scolded through the phone, causing Naruto to roll his eyes. Now apologize to your mother. Naruto sighed as he started to sponge up the spilled milk. Sorry mom. That's much better. Now tell me, how goes things down in Jump City? Meet any cute girls yet? Harley asked, her voice hiding a small snicker. Well, besides killing a small amount of thugs and having a run-in with the Teen Titans, things have been pretty boring, Naruto replied, tossing the towels away and placing his bowl in the sink. Though I believe I have a solid lead on someone linked with Dad and Mito's deaths. That's great news, Puddin', Harley quickly shouted in joy. But I do have a reason for calling you. Naruto strolled over to his couch and took a seat. And that reason would be? I need you to kill someone, the voice of his mother requested without skipping a beat. Naruto clutched his phone as he heard his mother's voice. It wasn't the voice of his sweet loving mother, no, this was the voice of the crime queen of Gotham. Honestly, Naruto was shocked and left speechless. He knew how drastically these past 11 years have affected him, but now he could hear how his mother had changed. Hudden, you still there? Yeah, I am. Naruto spoke in a flat voice as he was suddenly brought back into reality. Who? Dottie took a hard swallow. Who do you need me to kill? Just some D-bag. Here, I'll send a picture of him to your phone, Harley responded. Naruto felt his phone vibrate, then moving his phone to his eyes. The assassin looked at the screen and saw the photo of a middle-aged man. That's great and all mom, but I need more information than this. You know, a name, location and why exactly you want him dead. Harley sighed through the phone. His name is Garfield Sharp, he's a scumbag CEO from Gotham. Currently he is opening a new branch of his company in Jump City, so during the opening ceremony later today, I want you to kill him. Naruto stood up and started to pace his apartment. Today? Mom, you have to give me more time to prepare than that. I have no knowledge on this guy and I can't just stroll up during a ceremony and kill him. But that's what I want you to do, Puddin'. It shouldn't be hard for you to pull some ninja moves and kill that bastard anyway. After all, you did break me out of Arkham with ease, Harley pointed out, making Naruto groan. That's different, Mom. I planned for every scenario when I killed James King and broke you out. You asking me to gear up, walk up to some random guy and put an arrow in his chest. And what's the problem with that? Harley asked in a confused voice. Out of all my contacts, I know my son is the best choice to get this job done. Naruto started to massage his face in frustration. Mom, tell me why you want this guy dead. There was a long pause between the two, but after a moment, Harley took a long sigh and collected her thoughts. This guy, he is planning on doing a merger with Lex Corporation, which, if successful, will ruin our company. It will ruin your father's legacy, Harley explained in a saddened voice. Mom, is the company doing that bad? I remember Dad never worrying about other companies. Naruto noted as he looked out his window. Yeah, we are. See, when your father died it held negative effects on the company. Investors lost interest and your father wasn't there to lead. Then with my criminal involvement it placed the company in another bad light. I fear even stopping this merger would only delay the inevitable. Harley explained as she began to sob. I don't know what to do, Naruto. Naruto gripped the phone hard as he listened to his mother's tears. It hurt his heart to hear her cry. Mom, I'll promise you two things. First off, I'm going to kill that man for you. There was a pause as Naruto thought over his second promise. And what else? Harley asked in a weak voice. Naruto Namikaze will come back and he will protect his father's legacy. Though now isn't the right time, Naruto Quinn still has some work to finish. Oh pardon, thank you, but I think you should keep Quinn. It suits you. Harley pointed out as she started to dry her tears. But we can talk about that later, for now I have a plan to explain. The plan? Naruto mumbled in confusion. Yes, it's a little idea I have. One that I believe will solve all our problems. After all, your mommy is one smart cookie. Naruto smiled. Yes, she is, I'm all ears, Mom. With Raven. Raven walked slowly down the streets of Jump City, her body was slightly aching all over. She had just finished a grueling morning training session with her team. Apparently when Robin said they would prepare to handle the new threat of Naruto, he wasn't joking around. Now thanks to the new rigorous training, which Robin informed will be daily until Naruto is brought to justice. Raven was not in the most pleasant of spirits. In fact, she didn't get to have her early morning tea or meditate. So needless to say, Raven needed some personal time to calm down and collect her emotions. So that is why she was currently headed to her new favorite bookstore. Raven didn't know why she decided to make the journey to Naruto's store. She did love books, but she had plenty to read back at the tower. So honestly, Raven wondered why she even made the choice to go out to Naruto's store. Regardless of her reasons, she couldn't help to smile at the sight of the blonde store. As Raven came within a few feet of the store, she looked up to the name. Making a mental note to ask Naruto what his store name meant. Though as Raven touched the front door, she took a long drawn-out sigh. Please have a shirt on this time. The superhero teenager whispered in a low voice, while finally summoning the courage to open the door and walk inside. Once Raven entered the bookstore, she was instantly hit with the aroma of books, both old and new. She also noted that the store was completely empty again. Is anyone here? Raven spoke out, wondering where the blonde was currently at. For a movement there was silence, but eventually Raven heard footsteps. Raven? The voice of Naruto called out in confusion. What are you doing here? Raven smiled as she watched Naruto walk out of his office. I told you I would come back another day, I just didn't say when. Naruto nodded and walked over to the teen. True, but I didn't expect to see you back so soon. I figured you would be busy with your team. I was, but I needed a break from being a hero for a while. Robin is driving me crazy with all his team training. Raven began as she walked over to a wooden stool and took a seat. Stupid Thelab, Black Hood or whatever his name is. Pardon? Naruto replied, trying to be as innocent as possible. What are you talking about, Raven? Sorry, the guy on the news. You know, the one killing all the drug dealers and other criminals. Well, the media started calling him the Black Hood, but his name is Thelab, which is Arabic for fox. Raven explained as she started to groan. My leader, Robin, has shifted all our focus towards training to defeat and stop Thelab. Naruto folded his arms, inwardly smirking as this conversation could be helpful to him. You know, now that you mention it. I recall hearing a news story about this however you say his name. Thelab. Raven spoke the name, even though she didn't need to. After all, Naruto was Thelab, and he was quite fluent in multiple languages. So how is your team planning on taking him on? From what the news says, this guy is pretty dangerous. Naruto pointed out, hoping Raven slips up and gives more information out than she should. Well, we haven't done much, just teamwork exercises and physical training. Robin also insisted on going over some possible battle scenarios, but the rest of the team was exhausted. So we all took a break for a little while, thus here I am. Raven explained, holding her arms out. I see, but I'm curious. If this guy is only killing criminals, why try to bring him down? Naruto asked, making Raven narrow her gaze. Because killing is wrong. She answered without thinking, believing the answer should be obvious. Yes, but look at this from a different perspective. Naruto began as his tone shifted and he looked off into the distance. Soldiers kill during times of war, but we do not judge them, nor should we. They are tasked with the impossible either for their own protection or the protection of others. In a sense, we see them as taking care of the bad guys, even though to the opposing side, the soldiers are the villains. Raven folded her arms. There is a difference between war and killing thugs on the street. But is there really a difference? Naruto cut in as he looked into Raven's eyes. War is caused by greedy individuals who want more wealth and power. Well, criminals commit crime for more money and power. So what's the difference in this Thelab killing the bad guys? When in reality is he a solider waging war on crime? Like I said, killing is wrong. Raven retorted, sticking to her previous argument. Crime can be solved without killing. That's why the Justice League and my team was founded. Naruto smirked. Ah yes, you defeat the bad guys and save the day. The blonde then frowned and his voice held some venom behind it. Then the criminals break free and hurt, wound and completely destroy the lives of people who cannot protect themselves, but don't worry, the heroes always lock them back up. After all, the cycle has to continue because killing monsters isn't the right thing to do. What's your issue? Raven asked as she stood to her feet and glared at the blonde. If it wasn't for the heroes, countless lives would be lost. Naruto stood his ground and towered over Raven. My issue, Raven, is that a boy lost his father, sister and his mother because convicted murderers escaped prison. My issue is that those men could have been put down and I would still have a family. So that's why when I see a man killing criminals, I don't bat an eye. Because I think of another little boy's family he may have saved from becoming like mine. Raven stepped back, she was shocked by the teen's words. Raven remembered he mentioned life in an orphanage, but she never would have imagined the circumstances. I'm sorry, I didn't know. She replied in an honest tone. I can understand why you feel the way you do, but you have to understand. I have my own hardships, and I still believe my sense of justice is correct. Naruto sighed and took a seat. Don't apologize, you couldn't have known that my family was killed or that I sat there and watched the people I love die before my eyes. Though I'm sorry I lost my temper when I think about them. It brings back the memories of the night I lost so much. Raven smiled and placed a hand on Naruto's chest. It brings out an anger in you, but that's a front to hide your sadness. I can feel those emotions inside you. Raven explained while she slowly inched closer to the sitting blonde. If you want, we can talk about those emotions. Naruto smiled and grabbed Raven's hand, then as he slowly moved her touch away, he stood up. That's sweet of you to offer, but I've spent years trying to forget that night and move on. The blonde lied through his teeth. I'd much rather move towards the future. Raven moved her hand to her chest and looked down. Oh, I see. Listen, Raven. Naruto began as he moved to her side and placed an arm around her shoulder. Let's forget this talk if you really want to help me. Just having someone to talk with is very helpful. Raven blushed and poked her fingers together. Well, maybe I can be helpful sometime this weekend, maybe over tea. We could talk, get to know. Sure thing, it's a date. The blonde replied with a wink. Show up at my shop this Saturday around this time. Raven looked away. It's not a date, just spending time with a friend. Call it what you want, Raven. Either way, I'm looking forward to our time together. And maybe next time, we can have a more pleasant conversation. Naruto pointed out, a small laugh escaping his lips. Raven wasn't one to show many emotions, but she couldn't help but smile at the blonde's infectious grin. Slowly but surely, Naruto was having an effect on Raven. Though what neither teen knew was that Raven was also slowly having an effect on Naruto, but the question remained. Would these changes be for the side of good? Or something much more darker? A few hours later, with Naruto. Naruto was currently in his league uniform and his persona of Thelab was on the hunt. The prey was of course the man his mother gave him the contract to kill. The kill itself should be relatively easy as there was no protection of any sort in the area. However, there was still a complication for Naruto. Which was the fact that the opening ceremony was being covered by dozens of news stations and hundreds of people were on site to behold the opening of the new building. So as Naruto overlooked the crowd for his vantage point, he couldn't help himself from sighing in frustration. See, on the positive side, Naruto would be helping his mother and their company. Though the bad side was that Naruto would definitely be placed on camera for his kill, further placing him in the unwanted attention of others. I can't believe I agreed to do this. Naruto groaned as he slowly watched the crowd through a pair of binoculars. So far there was no sign of his target, but that was expected. Considering the event didn't officially start for another 15 minutes. So for now Naruto decided to wait and prepare to eliminate his target. The blonde thought about sneaking around, finding his target and killing him before he took the stage. However, his mother was very clear on how she wanted him killed. She wanted his death to be a public display, showing what would happen to any other future competition. Naruto was never one for public assassination contracts, but for his mother he would do anything. So as he placed his binoculars away, Naruto grabbed his bow and started to inspect his weapon. Most mothers give their teen sons normal jobs. Like mowing the lawn or picking milk up at the store. Naruto groaned as he pretended to draw his bow back. But not my mom, no, she wants me to kill someone. Family always complicates everything. A voice spoke from behind Naruto. Acting on instinct, Naruto grabbed an arrow and quickly turned around. firing a shot off at the person behind him without wasting a second. Though as the arrow flew into the air, the unknown individual batted the projectile down with a sigh, causing the arrow to land harmlessly on the ground. "Wait, what are you doing here?" Naruto spoke in confusion as he relaxed his bow. "Did Ra send you?" Standing across Naruto was a young woman with a slender but fit build. The woman had long and thick black hair and was wearing a mask to conceal her face. The mask itself was white and resembled a cat's head with red stripes and a wide grin. She was wearing dark green colored kimono which was tied around her waist where its length reached just above her knees. Finally she had a pair of knee-high black boots. "Yes and no," the female replied in a casual voice. Naruto placed his bow onto his back and folded his arms. "Then why are you here, Cheshire?" the blonde asked while watching Cheshire remove her mask, revealing her olive-colored skin and green eyes to the blonde. "Ra sent me on a mission a few towns over. Thought I'd swing back here and say hello," Cheshire explained in a matter-of-fact tone. "After all, with you gone, the league has been pretty boring. Been thinking about skipping out and going solo for a while." "You know Ra's would have your head if you did," Naruto pointed out, knowing his master's rules about never leaving the league. Cheshire waved the blonde's warning off and smirked. "Please, after how upset he is with you, I believe I could disappear and he wouldn't even bat an eye." Naruto slumped over and sighed. "I take it he has been following all the news stories about my recent deeds." "Oh yeah," Cheshire replied with a laugh. "I believe he is quite disappointed that you've left so much evidence during your nightly outings." "Well, if he knew what else I've been up to, I'd say he'd probably try to have me killed." Naruto began as he started to think maybe he should shut up. "Oh, do tell," the black-haired assassin practically begged. "It can't be that bad." "You'd be surprised," Naruto mumbled as he looked away. "What? It can't be like you have a date with one of those Teen Titan girls," Cheshire joked, but as she watched Naruto start to sway back and forth and whistle, she started to laugh. "Holy shit, you do." Naruto turned around and faced Cheshire. He was lucky his face was hidden, because currently the blonde was sporting a large blush of embarrassment. "Okay, for starters, it's not a date," Naruto began, causing Cheshire to grab her stomach as she laughed. "What, I'm being serious. We are just going to spend some time at a tea shop together." "Wow, just listen to yourself, you're in denial. Knowing you, you probably talk a big game in front of this girl, but look at you now." Cheshire laughed out before she brought a hand to wipe the tears in her eye. "Which one is it? And how did this even happen?" Naruto crossed his arms and started to pout. "I'm not telling you anything else," the blonde protested. "Oh, come on," Cheshire began as she punched Naruto in the arm. "You're the closest thing I have to a little brother, so I gotta tease you about girls. Besides, I gotta make sure this girl is good enough for you." Naruto rolled his eyes under his hood. "Okay, for starters, let's get one thing straight. It's not a date." "Yeah, sure, whatever, just give me some details already," Cheshire replied quickly. Naruto slumped over in defeat. "It's Raven," the blonde revealed. "During the day I have my secret identity of Naruto Quinn and she has taken a liking to me. I really don't know what to do. If I let her get close, she could figure out who I am." Cheshire shrugged her shoulders. "Honestly, this could work in your favor, that's if you play your cards right. I mean, you could earn her trust and completely destroy the Titans from within." "I have no interest with the Titans, I'm only interested in finding justice for my family," Naruto spoke with conviction behind his words. "Then why bother your time with this Raven girl?" Cheshire began as she started to walk away. "Either you like her or you're an idiot. Who knows, maybe it's a combination of both. Though let me leave you with some sisterly advice, do what your heart thinks is right. And don't let who you are get in the way of that." Naruto watched as Cheshire placed her mask on and jumped off the roof they were on. "Did she just give me good advice?" the blonde mumbled in shock. Shaking his head, Naruto turned around and grabbed his bow. "Ah, whatever, I need to shoot something now," the blonde groaned as he grabbed an arrow and took aim. Naruto took a deep breath and released his bowstring, which was followed moments later with loud shrieks and cries of panic. Then as many onlookers looked up to where Naruto was, the blonde placed his bow over his head and walked away. "Contract complete," the blonde mumbled to himself as he pulled a phone out and started to dial his mother's number. Hour later, Naruto's HQ. Naruto fiddled with an arrow in hand while rocking back and forth on a chair. His eyes were placed onto a live news feed covering the murder he recently committed. Like he imagined, people were able to connect his persona to the murder. Since it was broad daylight and the whole event was being recorded. So a cameraman was able to spot him before he left the scene. So far everyone was in an uproar for the deed which Naruto committed. Soon Naruto got sick of watching the current channel. So he flipped the channel and found another show talking about him. This show had a male news anchor angrily yelling towards the camera. Naruto recognized this as the G. Gordon Godfrey show. "Listen, it's time you wake up, Jump City." This Black Hood, as you all call him, is nothing besides a bloodthirsty monster. G. Gordon yelled into the camera, causing Naruto to slightly bend the arrow in his hand. It hasn't even been a week since he showed up in your city, and look at the bodies he's already dropped. I'll say it one more time so it sinks in, a blood-thirsty monster. Naruto snapped the arrow in half, then as he looked over to his clock, he noted that in an hour, he had to go meet Shikamaru. In order to pick up the phone he wanted fixed. And what has your heroes the Teen Titans been doing about this threat? Well, don't worry, G. Gordon has that covered for you. Just watch this and see how great your heroes are. Naruto watched as a clip started to play beside Gordon's body. It was a recording of his encounter with the Teen Titans. How in the hell? Naruto shouted as he stood up. I checked everywhere, there was no cameras to record me. Just look at this, folks. Gordon began as he started to point to the fight. These heroes stand no chance against this madman. I believe it's time the Justice League stop letting the rejects and sidekicks do their work and start helping people. Naruto balled his fists. Just whose side is this asshole on? The blonde mumbled in confusion. First he bashes me, then the Titans, and now he is calling out the Justice League. Or maybe it's time these freaks in masks call it quits. After all, how many people do they really help? Think about that. Godfrey yelled out, causing Naruto to growl and flip the channel. This time he landed into another channel, whose news anchor was midway through her story. Of course the topic was the assassination of Garfield Sharp, making Naruto groan. Is there really nothing else important for news stations to cover? The blonde whined before he decided to listen in. So even after Mr. Sharp's death, his legacy will live on. Thanks to Lex Luthor, who is now taking over Sharp Industries. By adding the million-dollar company to his already thriving business. The news reporter began in a happy voice. This is not good. The blonde mumbled as he clutched his fists onto the chair he was on. I should have seen this coming, why didn't Mom see this coming? We actually spoke with Mr. Luthor a little while ago. And here is what he had to say on the events that have transpired. The news anchor began, right as the TV transitioned to the face of Lex Luthor talking to a camera. It's always sad to see a friend leave this world in such tragic circumstances. Though thanks to a prior agreement, since neither I or Mr. Sharp have any next of kin. We had an agreement on our unforeseen deaths, so we had papers signed to give control of our companies to one another. So now I would like to publicly welcome Sharp Industries to the Lex Corporation family. Naruto turned the TV off, his blood was boiling, and he couldn't take much more. It seems like no matter what he did, nothing went his way. Something always had to go wrong, and the blonde was starting to grow sick of it. This cell phone better give me what I want. Naruto spoke to himself as he started to walk towards the elevator. Or things will get ugly. Repairs for idiots. Shikamaru was a simple individual who enjoyed nothing more than to relax and not worry about anything. Though for the past week the black-haired teenager has done nothing besides worry. Currently Shikamaru was at the shop he worked at, pacing back and forth. Thinking to himself what he should do next. As he walked, Shikamaru sighed and ran a hand through his hair. Showing just how troubled the normally calm individual was. What am I gonna do? The boy mumbled in desperation, placing his hands onto a counter and looking down. I don't have much time left. Shikamaru looked down to his shadow, which started to move around. Showing that something wasn't normal with the teen. My pawns are gone, my king is in check, and I only have one move left. And it's a stupid one at that. Shikamaru walked over to the cash register and owned it. Showing a small amount of money placed inside. I'm still 4 grand short and tonight is my deadline. Shikamaru slammed the register shut and then leaned against the counter. I could always steal the rest. Shikamaru then looked over to a wall where a picture was hung. The picture showed a tall man with black hair that was tied back just like Shikamaru's hair. The man had 2 large scars on the side of his face and a large black goatee on his chin. The man was holding a smiling Shikamaru on his shoulders while both smiled towards the camera. On the picture, the words Shikamaru's 4th birthday were written in black ink. This was a picture of Shikamaru and his father Shikaku. No, you would be ashamed of me if I did, but what am I supposed to do? Shikamaru asked the picture, waiting in silence, but of course he got no answer. Eventually Shikamaru balled his fists and looked down. If you were still alive, you would know what to do. You always knew what to do. Shikamaru suddenly stood up straight, right as the door to the store opened. Revealing Naruto, who was dressed in his civilian clothes. As the blonde entered the store, he gave Shikamaru a friendly salute and smile. I hope you managed to fix my phone. Naruto began as he stopped at the counter. Shikamaru glanced over Naruto for a minute, then after a few seconds. The black-haired repairman walked off to retrieve a phone from behind him. Yeah, I fixed it, I also found some interesting things when I turned it on. Naruto tensed up. Why would you do that? Shikamaru shrugged and placed the phone on the counter. Needed to check if it worked properly. Imagine my surprise when I figure out this wasn't your phone. Everything from contacts, pictures and other personal information. It all belongs to someone else. Naruto looked down at the phone and then to Shikamaru, who was carefully beepizing the blonde. It was a used phone, so it still has things from the previous owner. Naruto quickly lied while he reached for the phone. Shikamaru grabbed the phone before Naruto could even touch it. Then by holding the phone high into the air, Shikamaru beeped a grin. See, that's what I assumed at first, but some things about you threw me off. Like how you paid a large sum of money in cash like it was nothing. So why would you have a used cell phone when you could afford a brand new one easy? Then there was the blood on your jacket yesterday. Which if you match up the time of your arrival and the path you took here, it would link you to the murders yesterday. How would you know the path I took here unless that was you watching me the other night? Naruto shouted in surprise while discreetly reaching for a knife in his pocket. Shikamaru nodded. Yeah, I followed my gut and I was right. You are him, aren't you, the Black Hood? Naruto stopped for a moment, somehow he had slipped up enough to be caught. Roz would definitely be disappointed, but Naruto would fix his mistake. He would have to kill Shikamaru. Grinning ear to ear, Naruto started to laugh. You're pretty smart for electronic repairman. The blonde noted. By the way, call me Theolab. Black Hood is so cliché. Well, I did graduate high school when I was 12. So yeah, I'm pretty clever for a 16-year-old. In fact, I know who you really are, Naruto Namikaze. Shikamaru added in, causing Naruto to gasp in surprise. There is no way you could figure that out so quickly. Naruto began as he prepared to attack Shikamaru. Just who are you? Shikamaru held his arms out and shrugged his shoulders. I'm your everyday slacker/genius. All it took was me to do a little research and hacking to figure out a few things. There was still a huge time gap, but I pieced together enough information to assume who you are. Naruto was genuinely surprised, sure there was a few hints about Naruto that made who he was obvious. However, to link a completely stranger you talked to for 5 minutes to a boy that disappeared 11 years ago and then as well figure out his secret identity. Well, that wasn't just genius, it was a level of intelligence way above Naruto. You're talented, but… Naruto began as he moved quickly and pulled the knife out. Though before he could throw the object into Shikamaru's throat, the blonde was stopped dead in his tracks. Naruto didn't understand what was happening, his body just stopped completely. Like some force was holding him back. Then before the blonde knew it, his body forced itself to mimic the stance Shikamaru was in. What are you? Naruto asked, trying his hardest to fight what had a grasp on him. Shikamaru pointed to the ground, which of course forced Naruto to do the same. While he did this, it allowed Naruto to see a dark line which connected their shadows. I have an ability to control my shadow, I can use that ability to link my shadow with others and take over their movements. Shikamaru explained, while taking his empty hand and holding it to his neck. Though this of course made Naruto hold his own knife to his neck. As you can see, you are in a troublesome situation. Naruto growled and glared at Shikamaru. What do you want? You figured out who I really am and what I do in my free time. So what's your angle? You haven't alerted the authorities, but you did plan to confront me about something. However, I can tell you don't plan on killing me. Your eyes give you away, you are not a killer. So tell me, what do you want? Shikamaru sighed and released his hold on Naruto. I'm desperate, okay, I can't go to the cops and I need someone's help. Then when you came into my store yesterday and I started to piece together who you were, I figured you would be my only shot of help. The young genius explained as he leaned over against a counter behind him. So that's my angle, I need your help, Naruto. Naruto relaxed himself and looked Shikamaru over. All the signs Roz taught him to spot deception were absent with the teen. Obviously he was telling the truth. Okay, let's pretend for a moment that I would help you. Why come to me and not the cops? And why should I help you anyway? What could possibly be in it for me? Naruto asked, causing Shikamaru to groan. You are a really troublesome guy, you know that. Shikamaru pointed out while holding 3 fingers up. One, I mixed up with the wrong kind of crowd. A crowd that has my sickly mother, and if I don't pay them, they are going to kill her. Also, if I call the cops, they will kill her. Naruto answered, making Shikamaru nod his head. Exactly, then there is the fact that you could just kill me and not care about my problems. Then there would be no one to stop the upload of who you are, meaning Naruto Namikaze, and the Black Hood's cover would be blown. Shikamaru explained with a small smile. But here is the reason you should help me. I figured there is information on this phone you want. Well, it's all encrypted and I'm sure you don't know how to get past an encryption. So you help me save my mom and I'll help you. Simple as that. Naruto folded his arms and looked down. And you said I'm troublesome. The blonde laughed as he shook his head. Alright Shikamaru, you have a deal, I'll help you save your mother. However, you best keep your end of the bargain. Shikamaru held his arms up. I have no reason not to. The teen replied. Just help me save my mom. Alright, I'll help you. Naruto agreed before walking to the door of the shop. Come with me, we can head to my hideout and plan this rescue. Shikamaru nodded and followed the blonde, neither knowing of the friendship and partnership that would be born on this night. Naruto walked into his shop while Shikamaru was right on his heel. Currently the blonde was leading the teenager to his headquarters so they could devise a rescue plan. As they made their way into Naruto's office, the blonde stopped at his hidden bookcase, causing Shikamaru to groan. "Do you really have a room hidden behind a bookcase? Now that is cliché." The lazy teen mumbled. Naruto smirked and grabbed a book and pulled it back, causing a mechanism to make a clicking noise and the bookcase to slide out of the way, revealing a large elevator to Shikamaru. "Please, I'm a billionaire, I have much better tricks than just a simple room," Naruto replied while stepping into his hidden elevator. "You coming?" Shikamaru placed his hands into his pockets and walked into the elevator. "Troublesome blonde." The teen grumbled before the door closed and they began their descent. Naruto smiled and placed his hands behind his back and waited for the elevator to reach its destination. While Shikamaru just stood by and tried to think how anyone could build this without alerting a large crowd of people to its existence. Though as the elevator made a ding and its doors slide open, Shikamaru was instantly amazed. Naruto smiled and walked into his headquarters. "Welcome to my little secret lair, I've been working names in my head. I'm leaning more towards the fox den, but I'll put some more thought into it." Shikamaru ignored the blonde and walked past Naruto. "This is state-of-the-art tech, do you even know how to work half of this?" The black-haired teen began as he took a seat and started to type on one of the many computers. Naruto walked over and watched Shikamaru work on the computer. Though all he saw was numbers scrolling quickly down the screen. Besides playing online poker. Not much. "Amateur." Shikamaru mumbled while standing up and walking over to a display case. Taking notice to Naruto's uniform, he began to rub his chin. "That's not a very effective uniform, seems primitive. A gun would tear you to shreds, plus I doubt it's heat and cold resistant." Naruto narrowed his eyes. "It's the uniform the League of Assassins has used for centuries. It's designed for stealth, not a gunfight," the blonde assassins pointed out. Shikamaru nodded and walked off. "I could still make a better one," the teen replied before stopping at the station where Naruto kept his weapons. "Could make some improvements to your arsenal as well. Ever think of using trick arrows?" Naruto sighed and held his arms out. "Are we gonna talk about saving your mom, or are you gonna keep critiquing me?" "Most likely both," Shikamaru replied without emotion while walking over to the board where Naruto kept all his evidence to his family's murder. "What are you gathering all this information on?" "Wait, don't answer that." Naruto groaned and looked to the ceiling while Shikamaru began running his fingers across the different pieces of info Naruto had. "That makes sense," Shikamaru mumbled as he turned to look at Naruto. "You're in Jump City to find who was responsible for the attack that killed your father and sister. And I'm guessing that phone has the next clue you need." Naruto nodded. "Well, look here, I've got my own little junior detective." The blonde spoke sarcastically. Shikamaru rolled his eyes. "Beep." The teenage genius mumbled. Naruto folded his arms and narrowed his gaze. "Excuse me?" "You're excused," Shikamaru replied while walking over to the computer he was on moments ago. Then as he took a seat, he began to type once more. Naruto grabbed a chair and placed it beside Shikamaru, then as he took a seat he began to speak. "Alright, are we gonna talk about saving your mom? Cause I need intel, like who has her and where are her captives holding her. I'd also like to know why your mother got kidnapped in the first place, but all you seem interested in doing is screwing around." Shikamaru sighed and stopped typing. "For starters, she was taken by the Russian mob." "Jump City has a Russian mob?" Naruto replied in a confused tone. "Every shitty big city has a Russian mob," Shikamaru pointed out. "Though that's why I'm on this computer. I was supposed to meet with a man and pay the money I owe the mob. They would then give me my mother back, but I'm not stupid. I know even if I had the money to pay them, they wouldn't give me my mom back. So I'm trying to scan known areas used by the mob while hacking security street camera footage for any sign of my mom." "Which helps us how?" "There is hundreds of hours of footage on those cameras. There is no way you could locate your mother," Naruto replied in disbelief. Shikamaru began typing once more. "That would be true, except I'm using your state-of-the-art tech to run facial scans for my mom. In a few minutes I should know her exact location." Naruto was impressed, he had to admit that Shikamaru was defiantly useful. "Alright, so answer me this then. Why do you owe the mob money?" Naruto asked. Shikamaru spun around and faced Naruto with a blank expression. "When I was 13 my dad died in a car accident. He survived a collision, but he died later in the hospital. Though before he died, my dad spoke his last words to me. He asked me to always make him proud and watch over my mom. So when my mom became deathly ill and we didn't have the money for medical bills, I got some money from some dangerous people to help my mom. And now here I am, working with a killer to stop killers. Naruto nodded and began to think to himself, while at the same time walking over to his uniform. Shikamaru was just like himself, a boy who lost his father and would do anything to protect his mother. Alright, I'll go suit up for the rescue mission, I'll lend you a spare uniform to wear. That way the mob shouldn't recognize you. Naruto explained as he grabbed his uniform. After all, some of the mob may still come after you. Yeah, about that. Shikamaru began, while folding his hands and looking to Naruto. I'm not coming with you. Naruto looked confused as he held his uniform. What do you mean? Your powers could be helpful in saving your mom. True, but I'm not like you. You can jump around, shoot arrows and fight with your hands and sword. Shikamaru then pointed to his head. This is my greatest weapon. Powers or no powers, I would just hold you back. Naruto didn't argue, Shikamaru did make a point. Especially since Naruto always did work better alone anyways. Alright, I'll go after your mom, but what will you be doing? Naruto asked. Shikamaru reached beside the computer and grabbed a small device, then with little effort he tossed it to Naruto. I'm on Overwatch. Shikamaru explained, while placing a headset on. Take that headpiece and I'll walk you through everything, building schematics, enemy locations and anything else I can pull up for assistance. Naruto smirked. That should be helpful. Yeah, because I thought of it. Shikamaru deadpanned. Now suit up and we can discuss rescue plans. Naruto rolled his eyes and walked off. Don't order me around. The blonde grumbled while doing what Shikamaru told him to do. Titan's Tower. Robin had just recently called his team in for a meeting. The topic at hand was of course Thelab, aka Naruto. As Robin waited impatiently in front of a computer screen, his team slowly walked into the room one at a time. Beast Boy and Cyborg walked in almost at the same time, both teens were wearing a carefree expression on their faces. Neither really knowing the reason their leader called this meeting. Starfire was the next to enter the room, she was floating in the air and humming a happy tone to herself. She, like her other teammates, was unaware of the reason behind this meeting. Finally Raven stalked into the room with a bored expression, she had a book tucked between her arms. Showing she was in the middle of reading a book and Robin interrupted that. Soon the whole team took a seat and Robin cleared his throat. Then by clicking a remote control in his hand, pictures of Thelab appeared on screen. As you all surely know, for that past couple of days we have had difficulties with this Thelab. The boy wonder began. He's already killed countless criminals, but he's finally went too far. Robin then clicked to a picture of a smiling man. Within the previous 24 hours, Thelab has killed famous businessman Garfield Sharp. A man who had no criminal record or criminal involvement whatsoever. Raven looked at the picture and folded her arms. He mentioned having a target, could this be the target he spoke of? The female hero mused. Robin looked to Raven and sighed. Possibly, but there is no way of knowing for sure. That is unless we capture Thelab and get the information out of him. Cyborg frowned. So we have to assume there is more targets he is after. The half-teen half-robot pointed out. Unfortunately. Robin answered with a small nod. But there is good news, as I've finally figured out why this Thelab seemed so familiar. Starfire looked surprised. Have you fought the Thelab before? The alien princess asked. Robin shook his head. Not exactly, but I have fought the organization he works or worked for. It's a group that's gone by many names, the most notable ones being the League of Shadows and League of Assassins. Robin then clicked the remote and a picture of Raz came on screen. This is their leader Raz Al Ghul. Who I assume is Thelab's master, and if I'm right, we are in trouble. So what makes you so sure this Thelab guy is part of the League of Shadows? Beast Boy asked. I referenced his fighting style and uniform with data that Batman has collected over the years. It seems to be a perfect match. Robin answered in a grim tone. Which is bad, considering he probably has hundreds of allies within the league. Great, we are fighting a whole army of assassins. Raven mumbled unenthusiastically. Near immortal assassins. Robin added in, causing his team to be left in confusion. What are you talking about, Rob? Cyborg asked. The boy wonder sighed. The League of Shadows has this mystical pool, called the Lazarus Pit. It's a powerful tool that Raz has used to keep himself alive for centuries. Batman even told me it has the power to bring the dead back to life. Beast Boy tossed his hands into the air. An immortal assassin army, I'm so done. The boy grumbled. Robin turned the screen behind him off and looked around his team. Things are not that hopeless, so far I'm going on assumptions. However, we need to plan for taking Thelab out for good. So until his capture we are taking shifts patrolling the city at night. Is that the safest plan of action, Robin? Starfire began in a worried voice. Thelab did escape when we fought together, and he did say next time we get in his way, he will try to kill us. So is sending one person out alone a good idea? It's the best we can do for now. Robin answered in a low voice. We can't let him kill anyone else. And Thelab seems to prefer night attacks, but we can't all go fighting crime 24 hours of the day. So we have to take shifts to stay at our best. After all, Thelab isn't the only threat to the city. Raven stepped forward. Alright, then I'll be the first one to take night watch. The female hero announced. Robin shook his head. No, I was gonna take first shift, it's my idea, so I should be the one to go. Besides working with Batman, I'm accustomed to working at night. Raven smiled. Robin, you're exhausted, you've been going crazy with catching Thelab. Take a night to rest up and get back up at your best. Besides, you said it yourself, the first innocent he kills is on me. After all, I was the one who let him go. So let me take first shift. Robin opened his mouth to protest, but he knew Raven wouldn't listen. Alright, just radio your communicator if you get in trouble. Raven nodded and stood up. I should be fine. She replied while walking towards the exit. You four just rest up and don't worry. But Naruto. Naruto was currently fully geared up and driving his motorcycle down an abandoned underground subway tunnel. See, the Blonde's HQ was actually connected to a whole network of abandoned subway tunnels, so Naruto is able to move freely around the city without being traced. Soon he started to move up an incline of stairs before shooting his way into the streets of Jump City. Once Naruto hit the streets, he began to speed his way through traffic while disregarding other vehicles and traffic signs. Naruto, take your next right. Shikamaru instructed over their radio communications. Traffic cameras show there is a JCPD patrol car ahead, so it's best to avoid a high-speed chase. Understood. Naruto replied while moving to his right. Hey, do you think that you can hack the traffic lights and make them all green? There was a snort on the other end. With ease. Shikamaru answered while typing on the computer from his end. You should have all green lights from here on out. Thanks. Naruto spoke with a small smirk while revving up his motorcycle and taking off at a faster speed. No problem. Shikamaru replied while taking a moment of silence. Well, that could be an issue. I don't like that tone. Naruto began while taking a sharp turn. What's wrong? Shikamaru started to type faster than before while his eyes scanned across multiple screens. You're being followed, I'm not sure by what. Though something is definitely tailing your movements. Naruto tightened his grip on his handlebars. Where are you seeing this? Naruto asked, trying to look in his rearview mirrors. Sector 7, it looks like someone is flying by your side. Shikamaru explained while trying to figure out who was following the blonde. Naruto looked over and up, allowing him to spot the person following him. This of course caused Naruto to groan. It's Raven. The blonde revealed. Though I don't see her team, Shikamaru, what do you see? Said teen started to inspect multiple cameras around the blonde. So far it appears she is alone, but you should try to lose her. What do you think I'm trying to do? Naruto replied in an annoyed tone. It's hard when the other person can fly. Shikamaru raised his eyebrow. Did you try shooting at her? The teen asked. Did you try shooting her? Naruto mimicked in a childish voice while taking his hands off his bike and grabbing his bow. Then while bending backwards, he took aim and fired an arrow at Raven. Shikamaru watched the arrow travel towards Raven, only for the teen to fly out of the way. Nice miss. Shikamaru mocked, causing Naruto to growl through the headset. Little hard to be accurate while driving at night and shooting at a flying target. Who just happens to like dressing in dark clothing. Naruto replied, placing his bow back onto his back and continuing to drive. Up above Naruto, Raven squinted her eyes and watched Naruto. That's definitely Thelab. The teen mumbled while reaching for her communicator but deciding to leave it be. I don't need backup for this. Looking over to Raven, Naruto tried to lose the hero by taking a sharp turn into a large alleyway. Though a simple tactic like that was no use as Raven stayed hot on Naruto's trail. Quickly Raven flew down so she was flying beside Naruto. Then as her hand started to glow black, she focused on the wheels to Naruto's bike. This caused the wheels to be coated in a black aura and begin to stop on their own. Naruto found it increasingly difficult to control his motorcycle. Because he was still accelerating his bike, but Raven was forcing it to stop with her powers. So knowing he was nearly caught, Naruto slammed his brakes and made his bike slide down the alleyway. Coming to a stop where he was face to mask with Raven herself, who was flying above the assassin. I'm in a rush, Raven, so why don't you take fly off, pretty bird? The persona of Thelab began in his disguised voice. Raven slowly floated onto the ground and glared at the assassin. Why did you kill Garfield Sharp? Shrugging his shoulders, Naruto laughed. Someone asked me to kill him, so I did. The masked assassin replied. See, that's how assassination contracts work. Raven's hand started to glow black. Is that why you are in my city? Just so you could get the chance to kill that man? Please, I have my own agenda for being here, killing Mr. Sharp was just a favor for someone. Naruto responded offhandedly, before pointing to his bike. Now if you don't mind Raven, I'm on a timetable here. So I have to be on my way. Raven held one hand forward, causing Naruto's body to be encased in black aura. Azarath Metrian Zinthos. The teen chanted, before tossing her hand to the side. Forcing Naruto's body to fly off his bike and smack into a building. Landing onto the ground with a grunt, the blonde-haired assassin slammed his hands onto the ground and started to push his body upward. Shit, that hurt. The blonde whined in a low voice, while looking over to Raven with a scowl. I'd love to play, but I have more important things to do. Raven tightened her fists and glared at the assassin. What, are you going to go kill more people for the League of Shadows? Raven asked in an enraged tone. Because I'm not allowing you to take another life. Naruto was caught off guard, but he tried to not show his surprise to the female. How did she know about my time in the league? Did I slip up and let even more information about me get out? No, I've been clumsy recently, but not to that extent. Naruto thought to himself, before dusting himself off and deciding to play the teen's comment off. Heh, so you know I used to work for the League of Shadows. Though I'm no longer affiliated with my old master or his little band of assassins. So it seems Robin was right about you being a member of the League, or should I say previous member. I wasn't even positive about you being a part of the League, thanks for clarifying that. Raven began with a beepy smirk, one that made Naruto grin behind his mask. She was bluffing, of course the boy blunder would know about the League. After all, he and Uncle Bruce would have had some run-in with Roz and the League. Though I must say I'm slightly impressed by how she used her wording to get more information out of me. Naruto thought to himself. You don't fail to impress me, Raven, makes me curious why you hang out with your little band of rejects. Naruto began in a casual tone. Don't talk about my friends that way. Raven ordered with a glare of rage, causing a pipe on a building side to break. Due to Raven momentarily losing control of her emotions. They are great heroes, if anyone is a reject it's you. You have so much potential, but you waste it by taking lives that are not yours to take. I only kill those who deserve death. Like drug dealers, rapists, crime lords, corrupt businessmen and other scum the earth has created. If anything, I help protect this city more than you and your team ever could dream of. Naruto tightened his fists and took a deep breath. He really didn't have time to debate morals with Raven right now. That's not how justice works, you cannot be judge, jury and executioner whenever you feel like. Killing just makes you a monster like the people you kill. Raven shouted, her anger slowly growing out of her control. Listen, I'd love to sit here and waste more time arguing with you. But while you are out hunting me, I'm trying to go save someone's life. Naruto yelled back, causing Raven to go silent. What do you mean? Raven asked in a low voice, as she was caught off guard by the assassin's words. It really doesn't need explaining, a woman was kidnapped and I'm saving her. Since you and your team have done nothing to help her. Naruto replied while walking towards his bike. Some heroes you are. Naruto's words left a mark as Raven winced, she always believed her and her team were the saving force of the city. Though she had no knowledge of a missing and kidnapped woman. Honestly, for the first time since joining the Titans, Raven started to question if what they did was enough. Ignoring Raven, Naruto got back on his bike and was about to take off. Though he stopped as Raven suddenly called out to him. I'm not letting you leave, after all you could be lying. So if there really is a woman in danger I will help you in saving her. Naruto snorted. Sorry pretty bird, but I don't need your help. And I don't need your permission, I'm coming. And if there isn't a woman in danger. Yeah, you'll try to capture me. Naruto cut in while waving his hands around. Though as he revved his motorcycle, Naruto smirked under his mask. Try to keep up. Naruto took off at high speeds out of the alleyway, causing Raven to scowl as she followed him. Shouldn't we avoid help from her? Shikamaru asked through the comm link. Naruto looked over his shoulder and saw Raven flying closely behind. Well, I don't have time to take her out, and like I've said. We are on a timetable to save your mom. So I will deal with her once your mother is safe and out of harm's way. However, Raven is unaware I have a partner. We should keep it that way. Agreed. Shikamaru replied. I'll only contact you and feed you information, so you shouldn't try to contact me, only listen. Also don't give away any indication that you have a partner who is feeding you intel. After all, I believe giving the illusion you work alone could be beneficial. Copy that, I'm going radio silent for the rest of the rescue. Naruto informed before switching his focus back onto Raven. Not how I pictured this day going. High above, Raven looked down to the assassin known as Thelab with a careful gaze. Wondering to herself if he was actually telling the truth about a captured woman. Or if this was just some facade for him to escape or even lead her into a trap. I didn't sense any deceit when he spoke about the kidnapped woman. However, he is a killer and I should keep on my guard. Raven mumbled to herself. Back down with Naruto, the blonde-haired assassin made a sharp turn before coming down an empty street. Then as he traveled another 100 or so feet, he turned into an empty parking garage, which just happened to be located across a not-so-empty storage warehouse that was used by the local mob. Then as Naruto kicked up his speed, he quickly made his way to the top of the parking garage, coming to a stop at the ledge and allowing him a bird's-eye view of the warehouse. "Let's see what we are dealing with," Naruto mumbled while dismounting his bike and kicking the bike stand open. Raven floated down behind Naruto, who was already overlooking the warehouse through a small pair of binoculars. "Here, take a look," Naruto offered while tossing the binoculars over to Raven, who caught them with relative ease. There is 2 men stationed on the rooftop while 6 men are patrolling the area around the building. Raven looked to each area Naruto pointed out and sighed. So 8 men in total with automatic weapons are guarding the entrance to the building. Well, there is an unknown amount of mobsters inside the warehouse. Taking out the gunman should be easy, the hard part is locating and extracting the target, Naruto replied in a causal tone. "I can take out the 6 on the ground, can you deal with the 2 on the roof?" Raven nodded. "Yeah, I can take them down, but if you want my help I have a condition. And that is no killing while we are working together." Naruto looked to Raven and was about to protest her no-killing rule. Though once he saw how serious she was about the rule. The blonde-haired assassin chuckled to himself and decided to accept her terms. "Alright pretty bird, no killing. Only life-crippling injuries," Naruto replied in a cheeky voice while he smiled under his mask. Raven rolled her eyes and tossed the binoculars back at Naruto. "That's not what I had in mind either, couldn't you just knock them unconscious? You are clearly strong enough to take out 6 gunmen without killing or disfiguring them." Naruto shrugged his shoulders. "What? Batman kicks the holy hell out of bad guys all the time." The blonde fired back in response. "Just be glad I'm not going to kill those men and focus on taking out the 2 on the roof. Can you do that, pretty bird?" Raven glared at the masked assassin. "I can, and why do you keep calling me that?" Naruto leaned over the edge of the building and smirked. "You said not to call you beautiful, so since a raven is a bird and you're pretty, I feel the name suits you," Naruto explained before grabbing his bow and drawing an arrow back. "You know Raven isn't even my real name," Raven revealed in an annoyed tone. "Like I'd tell you my real name anyway." Naruto released his bow and an arrow with a line attached hit a building besides the warehouse. "I'm sure one day you will," Naruto replied while tugging on the line. Raven rolled her eyes and started to float into the air. "Yeah, that will happen after you take me on a date." Meaning it will never happen. Naruto chuckled and prepared to jump off the building, but before he took his dive, Naruto gave Raven one look over while smirking behind his mask. "Oh, I'll remember those words." The blonde assassin chuckled as he jumped off the building and moved towards the warehouse. Watching her temporary ally zipline towards his targets, Raven shook her head and flew high over the 2 men she was assigned to take out. "Stupid Thelab." The teen growled as she was now in position over the 2 men on the roof. "I swear after this whole ordeal I'm locking his ass in a prison cell." Raven's hand sudden started to glow, along with her eyes. Then within seconds, the 2 gunmen on the roof flew towards each other like magnets. Their heads colliding and knocking them both unconscious within seconds. Causing their bodies to drop hard on the roof and their guns to slip out of their grasp. "I should probably help Thelab with his 6, one wrong move and the men could alert anyone inside," Raven mumbled as she looked down towards where Naruto was. Though as she did, the superhero female's eyes were open wide in shock. Down with Naruto, the blonde was leaning casually against a storage crate. 6 beaten, bloody and arrow-filled bodies were unconscious around him. "Took you long enough," Naruto began while he watched Raven float down to him. Raven seemed a little offended by his words and tightened her fists. "Took me long enough. It didn't even take me a minute to take those guys out," Raven retorted while glaring at Naruto and pointing at the downed men. "And I thought we said no killing." Naruto stood up straight and walked past Raven. "Relax, pretty bird, they are very much alive." Naruto then smirked under his mask and released a chuckle. "I told you I wouldn't go easy on them. So that beating should teach them a lesson for engaging in illegal activities. As for taking too long, when Roz trained me he expected the best. If I took too long dispatching an enemy during a fight, I would be punished. So I learned how to be quick and brutal in a fight." Raven followed after Naruto slowly, she was a little enraged with the assassin. Though at least he kept his word and didn't kill the men. However, her rage was taken back as she thought about the assassin's words. Thinking about if he would really be punished if he didn't meet his old master's expectations. This question started to bug Raven beyond belief as she stared hard into Naruto's backside. The latter of whom was approaching a small metal door. "What was the League like? Surely it wasn't a good upbringing?" Raven finally asked, deciding to try and get more information out of her enemy. Naruto froze for a moment as his hand neared the door. Memories of brutal beatings, fierce fights to the death and his body being placed in the worst pain possible coming back to him. He started to hear the voice of his younger self shrieking in pain, while Roz yelled in disappointment. "Work harder, don't be weak." The voice of Roz echoed in his head. "You are my will." Naruto grabbed the door handle with his trembling hand. Memories he has repressed over the years slowly coming over him. His first time disappointing Roz, his first punishment, his first time taking a life. "I trusted you." A weak female voice spoke in his head, causing Naruto to tighten up and zone out. "Traitor. Failure. Killer. Monster." Naruto gritted his teeth as he heard different voices from his past and present. All of them bringing out the repressed feelings buried under Naruto's killer persona of Thelab. "Thelab." Raven spoke up, touching the assassin's backside, forcing Naruto to jump around in surprise. "Is something the matter?" Naruto shook his head and placed his hand back on the door. "Nothing is wrong, I was just remembering my past. Trust me, it's nothing you want to hear." The blonde explained, while slightly opening the door and peeking inside. "The coast is clear, let's move in." Raven watched Naruto move inside with a careful gaze. Obviously mentioning his past brought forth some painful memories. Raven could easily feel his emotions that his past with the League wasn't a very pleasant one. Maybe he isn't all that bad. He seems like a lost soul, one that no one has tried to save. Raven thought to herself while following after Naruto. As the two snuck through the warehouse, Naruto heard Shikamaru speak in a low voice into Naruto's earpiece. "There is 10 men inside the building, my mother is held in a small office in the far right corner." Nodding his head, Naruto snuck behind a large stack of crates, while Raven followed. Then as he peeked around the crates, Naruto pretended to start counting the thugs he could spot. "There is 10 in total," Naruto explained to Raven in a low voice. "Then in the far right I see a small room, the hostage is most likely inside." "What's the plan?" Raven asked. "How good are you with stealth?" Naruto quickly asked, causing Raven to create a black portal in the ground, which she slowly sunk into. "Good enough." The teen replied with a smirk before coming back out of the ground. "Then it's your job to save the hostage, I will eliminate and distract the kidnappers," Naruto explained while grabbing his bow and an arrow. "Remember?" Yeah, no killing, I got you," Naruto mumbled before slowly walking off and sticking to the shadows. Raven watched Naruto move into action and decided to move off as well. "Try not to get shot," the girl mumbled in a low voice, so only she could hear. Over with Naruto, the assassin was hunched over the top of a stack of wooden crates. Down below, he could spot 2 men talking to each other about their next big score. Across the 2 men was a third, who was standing by himself and smoking a cigarette. "Filthy habit," Naruto mumbled before taking a leap off the crates and landing on the 2 men. Then by grabbing their heads, Naruto slammed their faces into the concrete floor, knocking them unconscious. Next Naruto released his hold on the men and performed a forward roll. Then in one swift motion, he grabbed his bow and stopped his momentum by planting a foot forward. "Breathe down." The blonde chuckled before firing an arrow into the smoking thug, making the man yell in pain and fall over. Though this earned the attention of the other 7 mobsters in the room. "What? An intruder?" one of the men yelled before machine gun fire rained down towards Naruto. "It's the Black Hood, kill him boys." Shit. Naruto cursed while running and firing his bow. Managing to take 3 more men out in a quick exchange before diving into cover and taking a deep breath. Getting real sick and tired of cowards using guns. Naruto quickly peeked around his cover, only to move back into hiding as more bullets flew towards him. "Really hate guns, makes me wish I trained my powers more," Naruto grumbled before noticing a fuse box in the distance. "Though let's see how they can aim without any light." But Raven, the female hero, had finally snuck into the room where the hostage was located. Though as she heard gunfire, Raven sighed and shook her head. "They better not kill anyone," the purple-haired girl mumbled before noticing a woman tied to a chair in the back. But at least he wasn't lying about the kidnapped woman. Quickly rushing over to the woman, Raven noted she was most likely in her late 30s to early 40s. She had long black hair, which was greasy and unkempt, making Raven wonder how long she had been held captive. Her hands were bound behind her back and her mouth was tapped shut. "Are you okay?" Raven asked while she started to untie the woman and remove the tape around her mouth. "I'm fine, cough, who are you?" the woman asked in a weak voice. "Is my son okay?" Raven frowned, this woman was a mother whose child was probably worried sick about her. "I'm Raven of the Teen Titans, and don't worry, everything is okay," Raven explained, hoping to ease her worries without lying. Since Raven knew nothing about his son and wondered if Thelab did. "What is your name?" "Yoshino Nara," Yoshino revealed in a low voice before she started to cough loudly. Raven held a hand to support the woman, who was clearly sick. Though suddenly the lights went out and sounds of screams soon followed. "What's going on?" Yoshino asked in a fearful voice as his eyes didn't adjust to the darkness. "Just the other person who came to rescue you, he's probably taking out the rest of your captors," Raven explained before picking the woman up with her magic. "Though don't worry about that, I'm going to get you out of here." Thank you." Yoshino spoke in a weak voice before passing out. Raven smirked as the room grew silent, showing the fight outside was finished. "Don't thank me, I was just a tag along. You have someone else to thank for your rescue, not me or my team." "Oh, that's sweet of you to say." Naruto chuckled while he leaned against the entrance to the room. "How is she?" Raven watched with a calculated gaze as Naruto entered the room and walked to inspect Yoshino. "She's asleep, but she needs medical attention," Raven explained, causing Naruto to nod. "Then I'm trusting her to you," Naruto revealed with a small laugh. "After all, they might try to arrest me if I take her to the hospital." "You're lucky I don't try to capture you here and now," Raven replied in a stern voice. "But since this woman needs medical attention, her life comes before your capture." "Oh, is that it, or do you just want another night on the town with me?" Naruto asked in a playful manner. "We make a pretty good team after all." Raven glared at the blonde. "Don't take this the wrong way, you did good tonight. But you're still a criminal and I will capture you," the girl declared with determination. "Then I look forward to our next meeting, pretty bird," Naruto replied before slowly walking away and leaving the hero behind. Raven tightened her fist, but as she noticed the assassin leave the room, she relaxed. "Pretty bird, huh?" Raven mumbled the name while walking towards the exit with Yoshino floating beside her. "Sorry Thealab, but I'm more into blondes." At Naruto's HQ. Shikamaru watched as a large car-sized door opened in Naruto's headquarters, which was soon followed by the blonde assassin driving inside on his motorcycle. Naruto parked his bike and then by pulling down his mask and removing his hood, he walked over to Shikamaru, the latter of whom was approaching the blonde with a smile and outstretched hand. "Thank you," Shikamaru thanked as Naruto took his hand. "I'm in your debt." Naruto broke the handshake and walked over to where he stored his weaponry. Then as he unbuckled his belt, Naruto placed his sword onto a table. "Think nothing of it, we both needed something so I helped you," Naruto began while placing his bow on a display rack. "Now it's your turn to help me." Shikamaru nodded. "The phone, which might have information on the Mizuki man you're looking for." Then Teen explained before his voice turned a little frustrated. "I've already began looking into that for you." "And?" Naruto asked as he made his way over to a chair to sit. Shikamaru grabbed the phone and tossed it to Naruto. "I cracked the decryption, but there is a complication. The phone has dates of different drug deals, but the buyers and sellers all have code names. So we know when and where drug deals are going down, but we don't know who is at said deals." "Son of a bitch," Naruto shouted while standing to his feet and punching the nearest wall. "However, I did some digging on this Mizuki Sato, which turned out to be quite fruitful. I now have a photo of his appearance and a list of his crimes and known associates," Shikamaru explained, causing Naruto to beam with joy. "I don't have a location, but it's more information to add to our manhunt." "Our?" Naruto questioned in a confused voice. "I just needed you to keep my secret and get me the intel I need. Which you did and I thank you, but there isn't a need for you to keep helping me." Shikamaru nodded and walked over to Naruto. "I know that, but I've done some thinking. We both have the capability to be a real help to the city." The teen began with conviction as his words. "This list of drug deals and finding the people responsible for your family's deaths is only the beginning. We have the technology and the skill to be the vigilantes this town needs. Think about it, we can make sure no family suffers like yours did." "You have a point," Naruto began in a low voice. "I did always question what I would do after I avenged my family. And it felt good when I saved your mother and played the hero." Shikamaru smiled. "My brains and your skill, we can do anything. Though first I'd have to update your uniform and arsenal." Naruto smirked. "And I will have to teach you how to throw a punch." The blonde fired back. "So partners?" Shikamaru asked while holding a hand out to Naruto. Naruto grasped firmly onto Shikamaru's hand. "Partners?" The blonde replied with a wide grin. "We will find those responsible for my dad and Mito's deaths, but along the way we will protect the city." Shikamaru backed away and smiled, then by digging his hands into his pockets he walked off. "Good, tomorrow we will start our crusade and work everything out. Though for now I'm going to go check on my mother." Naruto smiled and waved his new partner goodbye. Things were changing fast, but they were working in the favor of Naruto. Which was just how the assassin preferred things. 9 years ago, Naruto age 7. Deep within the Arabic desert, there was a city hidden from the world. A place created by Ras Al Ghul himself, called Al-Thaban. Within its walls was where the League of Assassins first took shape. To many this stronghold was nothing besides a fable, a made-up story about a city of assassins that was passed down only to frighten young children. Though this city, like the ones who dwell within its walls, is very real. However, to those who live within its walls, they refer to this place as home. A place where members of the League have refuge, a place where they can train and become better than what they are. Alphaban is a place where a weak individual can be forged into the strongest warrior. That's why 2 years ago, one Naruto Namikaze decided to leave Gotham and come to this very place. Though he quickly learned his new lifestyle would never be a pleasant one. Get up. A deep voice bellowed, anger riddled in his voice. While he glared down onto the beaten boy at his feet. Or have you forgotten this is a fight to the death? Naruto heard the voice and tightened his knuckles, a sense of despair creeping over him. The blonde had been ordered by his master to fight another member of the League, but Naruto wasn't ready. He was 7, and his limited training along with his small body could only take him so far. While his opponent had decades of training, countless battle experience and was just flat out more powerful. I said get up. The man roared, kicking Naruto in his ribcage. Causing the blonde to go rolling across the cold stone floor. Humming to a stop on his backside, Naruto coughed up some blood. Then as he took a deep breath he met the gaze of his master Raz Al Ghul, who was watching from the side. Well boy, are you going to get up? Raz asked, his tone slightly disappointed. Gritting his teeth, Naruto stumbled to his feet. Then as he swayed back and forth, the assassin in training tried to strike a fighting pose. Though all he managed to accomplish was hold a stance for a second before stumbling forward. Raz watched the boy hit the ground and sighed. In 2 years what have you accomplished? Raz asked while walking over to the blonde. Sure you can now call yourself an adequate archer and your swordsmanship is subpar. Which is better than your prior non-existent skill. Though you still have failed in 2 aspects, do you know what your failures are? Naruto looked down and pressed his head against the stone floor. I've never once beaten one of your assassins in a duel. The blonde answered in a weak voice. Raz nodded. Yes, and that's expected, you're young and weak. Well, my assassins have decades of experience and growth to use against you. Raz explained to the blonde while folding his arms behind his back. I never expect you to win against them, well not yet. I only wish for you to grow from the experience. Though so far I'm not seeing that growth. I'm sorry master. Naruto mumbled in a low voice. What is my second failure? Raz turned his back to Naruto while walking over to the assassin who the blonde had been fighting. In the 2 years of your training, you have avoided taking one of the largest steps into becoming a true assassin. The man began, drawing his sword from his hip. You have yet to kill someone. Raz revealed as he plunged his sword into his own assassin's chest. See how easy this is? Naruto looked up and watched as his master effortlessly and without any emotion killed one of his own men. Causing the assassin's body to hit the ground with a large thump. You've had ample opportunities to kill, though you've never beaten a full-fledged member of the League. Out of your fellow assassins in training, you're the best. Raz took a cloth and started to clean the blood off his sword while a few assassins began dragging the dead body out of the room. However, you always show mercy to your fellow trainees in spars. You never kill those who you do manage to beat, even though if the role was switched, they would kill you. Naruto took a gulp and tightened his fists, his whole life everyone told him killing was wrong. His father and surrogate uncle Bruce Wayne along with his mother always told him killing was bad. So Naruto could never bring himself to actually take another life. But all of this will change, as I'm sending you on a mission. Raz revealed with a wide grin. You will be accompanied by my eldest daughter, who will oversee your mission. She will not assist you, but only observe and make sure you kill your target. Am I understood? Naruto nodded and slowly rose to his feet, only to take a bow. Yes master, I understand. The blonde mumbled in a low voice, his mind heavily conflicted about taking another life. Raz smiled. Good, then go rest. Your mission will begin in a few days. So I will brief you over your assignment at a later time. Naruto nodded and turned his body, he was headed back to his quarters. Though he kept asking himself over and over. Did he have what it takes to become a killer? He knew to avenge his father and sister he would have to, but Naruto was starting to question for the first time since his arrival if he really could become a true assassin. Present time, Naruto's bookstore. It was the day after Naruto had teamed up with Raven and rescued Shikamaru's mother. Currently the blonde-haired teenager was seated in his underground headquarters, his face glued onto the board of clues he had placed together. He was studying the picture of Mizuki's face. Taking note to memorize every key feature of the man's face, as he was the blonde's current target. Mizuki was an overconfident-looking man, as in his picture he was dressed in an expensive suit and he was smirking into the camera. Though his defining features were his green eyes and his hair. The latter of which was shoulder length and completely white. According to a birth certificate Shikamaru grabbed off a hospital database, Mizuki is only 29. Hair like that isn't common for men of his age, which would make finding him a little easier. However, there is hardly any other information on him. Naruto mumbled to himself, trying to think of his next plan of action. Back to square one, but at least I now have a face to match the name. Hearing a ding, Naruto turned his attention to the elevator, where Shikamaru was just now coming out of. "About time you showed up," Naruto mumbled, pretending to be annoyed. Shikamaru rolled his eyes. "Yeah, whatever." The teen grumbled before taking a seat. "Troublesome blonde, I don't do early mornings. You're lucky I decided to come and not sleep in." Naruto grinned. "Yeah, lucky me, but in all seriousness, how is your mom?" Shikamaru reclined back and looked to the ceiling. "She is a little shaken by the experience, but I feel she is gonna be fine. Especially after an unknown benefactor paid for her hospital bills and arranged for her to get the treatment she needs to become healthy again." The boy explained before looking back to Naruto. Already deducing who paid the bills for his family. Guess you got off pretty lucky then." The blonde replied in a casual tone. "Yeah, I guess we did, but after her recovery she is moving to Hub City without me. We have family there and she just wants to get away from Jump City," Shikamaru explained in a dry voice. "And she is okay with you staying behind?" Naruto mumbled in confusion. Shikamaru nodded. "Yeah, I made up some story about me finally attending a local college in Jump City. This should be an easy excuse as I can easily hack any network and make it look like I'm a student. I also said I'll be rooming with a friend, so that could explain why I'm never on campus." "That's good, I have way too much room in my apartment for one person, so you could move in. Besides, if we are gonna be working together we need alibis. You could be my roommate who works at my shop and in turn I pay you with a place to live," Naruto proposed, causing Shikamaru to nod in agreement. "That would be the best course of action, we don't want anyone else learning about your double life," Shikamaru pointed out with a smirk. "You mean our double life, you're an accomplished now?" Naruto shot back with a wide grin. "Yay, so that means try to not land us both in prison. Killing and being a vigilante is pretty illegal after all," Shikamaru replied with little enthusiasm. "Yeah, I know, so you living here will be perfect," Naruto began before standing to his feet and walking over to his evidence board. "But let's get down to business, what's our first move?" Shikamaru stood up and walked over to the blonde and pointed to a list of names. "These names are just different types of dog breeds. Now I doubt the drug dealer you stole this phone from raised dogs. So it's safe to assume these are his associates and the dog breeds are names to hide their identity. And one of these names should be Mizuki, but we don't know which one," Naruto summarized, causing his partner to nod. "Though that doesn't matter because now we are in the vigilante game. So we should just start crossing names off this list." "That's a start, but there is plenty of more crime for us to handle. Speaking of which, how do you plan on fighting crime?" Shikamaru asked, earning a confused look from the blonde-haired assassin. "I mean so far everyone you faced you've killed, with the exception of last night. So what are you going to do?" Naruto shrugged his shoulders and laughed. "I'll rotate between an arrow to the chest and a sword to the chest," Naruto answered without thinking too much on the matter. "I used to believe killing was wrong, but now it's the only form of justice I know. And it works, so I'm not changing anytime soon." Shikamaru sighed. "Troublesome, but let's move on." The black-haired teenager began as he walked over to Naruto's gear. "I need to order some supplies so I can update your arsenal. You know, something like trick arrows and a more conventional costume." "If you insist on it," Naruto mumbled while walking over to a chair and taking a seat. "Money won't be an issue, so order whatever you want." Shikamaru nodded and went over to his computer. "So that takes care of living arrangements, alibis and updating your gear. However, there is another hurdle we have to talk about. The Teen Titans." Naruto rolled his eyes. They have proved to be quite the annoyance. Though things are complicated with the Titans. For one, I'm not going to kill them, I may not like them or agree with their methods. But they do help the city, and besides, if I did kill the Titans, the Justice League will probably come knocking on our door," the blonde assassin explained before taking a long drawn-out sigh. "And without any control of my powers, I doubt I could last 2 seconds against powerhouses like Superman, Martian Manhunter and the Flash." Shikamaru raised his eyebrow. "You have powers?" Naruto smirked and held his open palms a few feet apart. Then as he started to focus, a twister of wind started to form between his hands while lightning crackled around his body. Though this only lasted for a few seconds before Naruto stopped and took a deep breath and hunched over. I can generate wind and lightning," Naruto wheezed out while trying to catch his breath. "But as you can see, I have no real control over my powers." Shikamaru began to think and scratch his chin. "I could probably help you with that. After all, I have full control over my powers. So I could show you some exercises I used when training myself." "That would work, but let's get back to the topic of the Titans," Naruto began, causing Shikamaru to nod. They will try everything in their power to capture me, no matter how much good I end up doing. And there is the issue of them discovering who I am. Don't worry about them discovering who you are. Since we are working together, I can take all the info I used to deduce your identity and make it impossible to figure out who you are. Shikamaru explained, but Naruto only chuckled nervously and rubbed his head. See, there is an issue that you don't know about. Naruto admitted. See, Raven has had interactions with both Naruto Quinn and Thelab. In fact, me and her are going out for tea tomorrow. You're troublesome, you know that, right? Shikamaru asked while massaging his forehead. Okay, you need to distance yourself as quickly as possible. Naruto smirked and shook his head. No, I just need to show you how to fight. The blonde replied casually. After all, I want her to figure out who I am. Okay, I'm a genius and I don't understand what you're thinking. Which probably means it's a terrible idea. Shikamaru mumbled in a low voice. Naruto shook his head. Listen, I have plans to take over my family's company, but not yet. So that means the world will figure out I'm Harley Quinn's son. Which then people might wonder if I'm a criminal like her. And if they compare the time Naruto Quinn arrived in town to when Thelab started killing people, your cover could easily be blown. Shikamaru cut in as he started to figure out where this was headed. Exactly, but if I already get accused of being Thelab and then get my name cleared, well, there is nothing to worry about. Naruto explained while standing to his feet. So that's why I need to teach you how to fight. Because one day you might have to play the role of one dashing and highly skilled assassin. It's troublesome, but it's a good plan. Shikamaru admitted, causing Naruto to nod. I know, my mom came up with it after all. Though I was gonna phone in a favor from a friend, but you should do fine. Well, first I'll place some orders for new gear and then we can start training your powers and my combat skills. Then at night we can start our little crusade for justice. Shikamaru explained as he started to type onto a keyboard. Though I have one question, where did you disappear to for so many years? I managed to figure everything out about you besides where you have been for the last 11 years. Naruto smirked and rose to his feet. Sounds like a plan to me, and sure, I can tell you a little about my time in the League of Assassins. We are partners now after all. Titan's Tower. Revan was having a peaceful morning, her fellow teammates Beast Boy and Cyborg were nowhere to be found, so it was quiet. Starfire was still asleep and that meant she wasn't up and about cooking some horrendous breakfast. Well, her leader Robin was absent as well, so she was left with nothing besides her book and a warm cup of coffee. Even though Raven was having her ideal morning, she could not get the events of last night out of her head. Sure, she managed to save a woman's life, but she did so as an accomplice to a murderer. However, what made the entire situation unbearable was that Thelab was right. There was crime in Jump City that her team didn't even bother with stopping. Raven always had a firm belief that her team handled every threat and problem within the city, but she was terribly mistaken. Crime was all around her and neither she or her team have done anything to combat it, but Thelab has. Hell, he is the sole reason Yoshino Nara was still alive. Not Raven, regardless if the hospital staff had praised her for the rescue last night. I have to do more. Raven mumbled as she gripped her coffee mug tightly. It's time I start acting like a real hero. I won't let a killer be the one who saves the city. But that declaration made to herself, Raven heard the opening of sliding doors. This caused Raven to look up and meet the gaze of her leader Robin. Just by his body language she could tell he wanted to speak with her and he wasn't pleased. Morning. Raven greeted softly, her eyes fixed on Robin as he slowly walked in her direction. You were busy last night. Robin began before he tossed a small tablet before Raven. You made this morning's headlines, mind filling me in? Raven looked the tablet over and fought the urge to release a groan while reading the headline. Raven of the Teen Titans saves the day, but was she alone? It's not what you think. Raven began. It's not. Robin yelled in response while he slammed his hands onto the countertop. It says right here you saved a woman who was being held hostage, which is great. However, the crime scene was filled with mobsters who were dispatched by an archer. Now last time I checked you fought with your powers, not arrows. Though we both know someone who does. Raven tightened her fists and matched Robin's glare with one of her own. Just say it already. Fine, I will. Robin retorted as he pointed a finger at Raven. You ran into Thelab last night and instead of capturing him you helped him. I had no choice. Raven yelled back as she slammed her hands onto the counter and leaned over, she was a few inches from her leader. It was either his capture or a woman's life. I made my decision and I stick by it. The two remained silent for a moment while the tension in the room started to build. Robin's anger was clearly starting to boil over. You could have contacted the rest of the team, we could have saved the woman and captured Thelab. But instead you let him get away for the second time. Robin shouted loudly. You know what? Maybe I was afraid of Thelab running away if I called for help and then that would have left the woman for dead. Or maybe I let him go because he did something good. Maybe I let him go because he showed me that our team turns a blind eye to so much crime in the city. Raven yelled as her powers spiked and her coffee mug shattered. Robin could only shake his head in disappointment. Letting you take night patrol was a mistake, one that I won't make again. Robin growled before he backed away and turned his back to Raven. I'll be handling night patrol by myself, and Raven. If you help a killer like Thelab again, then you're off this team. Raven took a deep breath and watched Robin leave the room. She was pissed off and needed to take some time to mediate in her room, but first she needed to clean the mess she had made. The next day, with Naruto. The day was the day that Naruto and Raven had agreed to have their date, and to say Naruto was a tad bit nervous was an understatement. So many things could go wrong while he was out with Raven, and Shikamaru had nailed it into his skull to avoid giving himself up as Thelab before the time was right. By saying something stupid and getting caught. Currently the blonde was in his bathroom and was staring at his own reflection. Get a hold of yourself. Naruto told himself while bouncing on his heels. You've killed dictators, invaded secret compounds, hell you handed the Teen Titans their collective asses on your first week in Jump City. You can handle spending time with a beautiful girl, one that just happens to be hunting down your alter ego. Naruto looked himself over and hoped he was dressed in a fashion Raven would like. Naruto was dressed in a pair of black skinny jeans and a white t-shirt. While also wearing a red and black button-up shirt, which he left unbuttoned to reveal a small necklace his mother had given him. It was a small necklace with 3 red metal diamond-shaped charms hanging off of the chain. It's now or never. Naruto mumbled as he left his bathroom and walked into his living room. Shikamaru, who was seated on a recliner and tinkering with a small gadget, looked up to Naruto. So you're really doing this, troublesome? The teen began before turning his attention back to the device in his hand. What, no words of advice? Naruto asked with an awkward chuckle. Shikamaru snorted. Yeah, don't get us both arrested. Naruto rolled his eyes. Wow, what great advice. The blonde mumbled sarcastically. Shikamaru twirled a screwdriver around in the air. What do you want me to say? I don't have much experience with girls, but I would assume neither do you. Naruto folded his arms. Please, the league trained me in the art of seduction. So a date should be simple, I just skip the part where I kill Raven after sex. The blonde replied, causing Shikamaru to giggle as he continued his work. Oh yeah, then you're fine. Shikamaru replied offhandedly while motioning for Naruto to go away. Go get her, lady killer. Yeah, whatever. The blonde grumbled before walking off and making his way down the stairs which lead to his bookstore. Once he emerged in the front portion of his store, Naruto strolled over to the front door and unlocked it. Then by opening the door and stepping outside, Naruto locked the door once more and leaned against his store. Next, the blonde cautiously grabbed his cell phone and checked the time, his nerves growing worse as he noted Raven should be coming around in the next minute or two. Though as Naruto waited for Raven to arrive, he felt his phone vibrate, signaling that he received a text message. I'm calling in a favor you owe me, call me for the details, Cheshire. Naruto arched his eyebrow at the message and began to type his reply. I can't call you, I'm meeting up with Raven. How did you get this number anyway? Met up with your mom during my last visit in Gotham, she gave me this number. She's nice, a little crazy, but nice. Naruto rolled his eyes, of course his mother was involved somehow. Figures, just tell me what you want, Jade. Nah, call me after your little date, that way I can call in my favor and tease you. Naruto sighed and pocketed his phone, he was interested in what Cheshire could want. Though at the same time he really didn't want to deal with her teasing him over the phone about his time with Raven. I swear between Jade and my mom I have no normal women in my life. Naruto grumbled to himself while slumping his shoulders. After almost a minute of being slumped over and watching people pass by, Naruto heard someone clear their throat and cough, almost like someone wanted his attention. Glancing to his right, Naruto's face turned red and his heartbeat started to beat uncontrollably. His blue eyes focused on the hero and his date for the day. Raven. Hey. Raven began in a slightly flustered voice. Naruto shook his head and looked Raven over. She wasn't dressed like Raven the superhero. Instead, she was dressed like a normal teenage girl. Raven was wearing simple blue shirt with a black low-cut jacket over top. She was also wearing a pair of black jeans and matching black boots. While finishing her assemble off with a necklace with a small red charm. You look amazing. Naruto admitted truthfully. Raven blushed and looked down. You don't look so bad yourself. The dark-haired hero replied softly. Naruto smiled wide and stood there looking at Raven, the latter of whom returned his gaze. Both teens standing in silence for a few seconds while looking each other over. Should we get going? Raven finally asked, breaking the awkward silence. Naruto nodded and motioned for Raven to walk. Lead the way, you know where we are going after all. Raven nodded and started to lead Naruto to where they were going for their first date. The walk itself was relatively short and quiet, as neither teen didn't really know what to say. Though as Naruto and Raven walked to their destination, they did earn the looks of many passing by citizens who recognized the hero. Many of which figured that Raven and Naruto were on some form of date by the way they were dressed. Well. Raven began as she stopped walking and stood in front of a small shop. Here we are. Naruto grinned and opened the door to the shop for Raven. After you. Raven cracked a small smile and passed the blonde, then by finding a secluded table in the back. Raven and Naruto both took their seats and ordered some tea from the shop owner. This place is nice. Naruto noted, his eyes scanning around the decor of the shop. I'm glad you picked to come here. Me too, this is one of my most favorite places in all of Jump City. Raven replied, sharing a bit of herself with Naruto. Naruto nodded with a smile and folded his hands over the table. I have to be honest with you Raven, I've never really been on a date before. The assassin revealed, causing Raven to laugh. That makes two of us. The hero admitted. Well, that's reassuring, at least you won't have high expectations for me. The blonde joked before leaning into the table a bit. Hey, I have an idea, let's play a small game. Raven arched her eyebrow. What kind of game do you have in mind? The teen asked. It's simple, I will ask you a question and you must answer it. Then you ask me a question and I will answer it. Naruto explained, causing Raven to nod. Why don't you go first then? Raven proposed. Alright, no problem. Naruto replied, while his inner persona of Thelab smirked within his head. Tell me, what's your real name? After all, I'm sure your name isn't Raven and you don't really try to hide who you are with a mask. So why don't you tell me your name, besides you know mine, it's only fair. Raven bit her lip, no one really asked to know her name. Even her team didn't know her name, while she didn't know her teammates' real names. Though Naruto was right, she really didn't have anything to hide. So why not tell him her real name? Rachel, my name is Rachel Roth. The now properly named Rachel revealed, causing Naruto to smile. That's a beautiful name Rachel, you don't mind if I call you by your name do you? Naruto asked. Only when we are alone, but when other people are around call me Raven. Raven explained, causing Naruto to nod. I don't want everyone knowing who I really am. Especially a certain annoying assassin. Naruto couldn't help himself from giggling at the mention of an annoying assassin. I can agree to that Rachel. Naruto agreed before pointing a finger to Raven. Alright, your turn, ask away. Raven fiddled with her fingers and wondered what to ask. There was so many questions she could ask about the blonde, but she didn't know where to start. Though after a minute of thinking an idea came to her. Your bookstore. Raven began, causing Naruto to tilt its head. It's called Mito's bookshelf, what is the meaning behind that name? Naruto frowned, as the memory of his sister started coming back to him. He had half a mind to lie to Raven about Mito, but he needed to start laying a breadcrumb trail that he was Harley Quinn's son. I had a family. Naruto began in a low voice, his eyes zoning out as he looked at their table. I had a great father, a beautiful mother and a wonderful twin sister Mito. Naruto looked up to Raven with a disheartened expression. Like I said, bad men took them away from me. The name of my store is my way of remembering her. Raven reached over and placed her hands over Naruto's. I'm so sorry. The Titan began in a low voice. I shouldn't have brung the subject up. It's fine Rachel. Naruto replied honestly. You didn't know, so don't beat yourself up. But let's move on to another topic. Tell me about yourself, what was your childhood like? Raven looked down. While an emotion appearing on her face that Naruto had seen in the mirror for years, the look of pain and suffering. I didn't have much of a childhood. Raven answered simply, causing Naruto to nod. I see, I don't want to overstep my boundaries. So why don't we change the subject? Naruto asked. Raven nodded in agreement. Yeah, that would be for the best, I really don't want to talk about my father right now. The hero replied, speaking with venom in her words when she mentioned the word father. So she has issues with her father. Naruto noted in thought at Raven's small slip-up. That could be useful information for the future. Well, why don't we talk about ourselves? You know our likes and dislikes. Naruto proposed with a small infectious smile, causing Raven to crack a smile of her own. I would like that. Raven replied softly. Naruto happily went first and started to tell Raven about all his likes, dislikes and funny little quirks. While she joined in and shared her own interests with the blonde-haired male. Their conversation lasted for hours, and both teens enjoyed one another's company, as neither could remember a time when they had as much fun with another individual. Eventually they decided to leave the tea shop and make their way back to Naruto's bookstore. Though the sun had went down and the two teens found themselves walking together under the cover of night. Well, the busy nightlife of Jump City was going on all around them. I had a lot of fun today, Rachel. Naruto admitted to the girl who was walking very closely beside him. Me too. Raven replied with a small blush. I'd like to spend more time with you. Naruto laughed and nudged Raven's shoulder. Look at you, not even done with this date and you're already asking for another. Maybe I am, got a problem with it? Raven asked with a small amount of confidence. I would love another date. Naruto admitted before stopping in front of his store. You're a real special person, Rachel, and I like being around you. You're sweet. Raven began, but she stopped as Naruto gave her a small peck on the cheek. And you're beautiful. Naruto replied while giving the blushing hero a wink. Remember now, I gave you my number earlier, so you better use it. Raven grinned ear to ear. I'll think about it. Naruto shared a grin with Raven while placing a hand on the door to his shop. I'll see you around, Rachel. The blonde spoke softly, causing Raven to nod as she walked away. Naruto's apartment. Naruto walked into his living room with a happy grin on his face and a pep in his step. This action of course was noticed by Shikamaru, who was seated on the couch. So it's safe to assume that you didn't screw things up. Shikamaru began before releasing a loud yawn. Or should we run off to the panic room? Things went perfect. Naruto admitted truthfully. So you really do like her? That complicates things, doesn't it? Shikamaru asked. Yeah, I do like her, we are a lot alike after all. Naruto revealed while taking a seat beside his friend. But you are right about there being complications, I am technically her enemy since her team is hunting me down. Shikamaru waved the blonde off. It's all too troublesome, let's focus on our task at hand. We have a name to cross off our list tonight, are you ready? Naruto sprung off the couch and started to stretch. Yeah, let's go to work, I've been itching for some action. Shikamaru slowly stood to his feet. Well, let's go then. The black-haired teen replied as he and Naruto both made their way down to their secret HQ. Though once they made it into the elevator, Naruto sighed in frustration. I almost forget. Naruto spoke up while grabbing his phone and beginning to dial a number. I gotta call Jade. Who? Shikamaru asked in confusion. One of my few friends from my days in the League of Assassins. Naruto explained while placing the phone to his ear. Troublesome. The teen mumbled, knowing a little about Naruto's time in the league. Naruto waited in silence for a moment, but soon someone finally picked up on the other end. What took you so long? Were you busy rounding third base with that Raven girl? The voice of Cheshire asked over the phone. Naruto rolled his eyes. Cut the crap, Jade, and just tell me what you wanted to talk about. Oh, you're no fun. Jade whined in response. Just give me some small details. The elevator dinged, followed by Naruto and Shikamaru both walking into their hideout. The latter of whom started to prepare for the work they would be doing tonight. Listen, Jade, I have a lot of work to do, so please just get to the point. Naruto begged as he started to massage his forehead. Fine. Jade huffed out. You remember me telling you about my sister? Yeah, I do, from what you told me she lives in Gotham with your crippled mother. Naruto answered while taking a seat and fiddling with an arrow laying on the desk in front of him. What was her name again? Artemis. Jade spoke in a low voice. Her name is Artemis. Naruto nodded and started to inspect the arrow in his hand. Okay, so what does your sister have to do with the favor I owe you? There was a sigh through the phone. I told you I met your mother during my last visit to Gotham. Well, I also caught up with my own mother, she told me that my sister has been doing some vigilante work. I'm worried about her, Naruto, she isn't properly trained like you and me. She could get herself killed. I thought you were distant with your family. Naruto pointed out. I am, but that doesn't mean I don't care. Jade fired back quickly. Anyway, here is my favor, I want you to go to Gotham and take my sister under your wing. If she wants to live the life of a vigilante, I at least want her to be properly trained. Besides, who else would be better to teach her than one of the best up-and-coming vigilantes I know? Naruto placed the arrow in his hand down. Jade. Oh no, don't you jade me. Cheshire cut in loudly. Your ass owes me. Naruto took a deep breath and nodded. You're right, I do owe you, so I'll approach your sister with an offer. Though it won't be right away, I need a little time to set a few things in motion. Best I can do is approach her in the next few weeks and offer her a chance to come with me back to Jump City. There was a moment of silence. Fine, I can accept those terms, just keep my sister from getting herself killed. I promise, Jade, I'll take care of her. Naruto reassured his old friend. We can talk more later, I have to go. Naruto hung the phone up and looked over to his partner with an exhausted expression. I'm guessing things got more troublesome? The black-haired teen asked. Naruto stood up and walked over to his gear. You have no idea, but let's focus on kicking some ass. Titan's Tower. Raven walked through the hallways of the Titan's Tower with a large smile on her face. She had a wonderful day with Naruto today and she couldn't wait to see the blonde again. Since in her mind, Naruto was perfect. He was kind, funny, shared similar interests as she did, and most importantly treated her like a normal girl. Truly, the young hero was quickly falling for the blonde-haired assassin. However, as Raven walked to her room and thought of the events that had gone by, she slowly passed the room of her leader Robin. who just so happened to be leaning against his doorframe and looking right at his teammate. "Where have you been all day?" Robin asked in a plain voice. "None of your business." Raven shot back with a firm tone, as she was still mad at Robin from their argument about helping Thelab. "Just leave me alone." Robin slightly opened his mouth, planning on apologizing for earlier. Considering the boy wonder felt guilty for the way he treated his friend. He knew he was right in their argument, but he could have handled the situation better. However, Raven quickly opened the door to her room and disappeared inside before closing the door with her powers. "Okay then." Robin sighed in a low voice before he retreated into his own room. As Robin locked his door, the masked hero walked over towards his computer and noticed he was receiving a call. This caused Robin to raise an eyebrow and take a seat, confused by what the person calling him could want. So as he clicked accept on the computer, he was met with the face of his mentor and adoptive father Bruce Wayne. "Beep." Bruce greeted in a plain voice. "You look like you've seen better days." Robin nodded and removed his mask. "Yeah, I've been going a little overboard chasing this assassin called Thelab, but the media has been calling him the Black Hood. I've heard about him, in fact that's the reason I'm contacting you." Bruce explained, filling Robin with dozens of questions. "I assume you know this man has League of Assassin training." "Yes, I've came to that conclusion." Robin answered quickly, before opening a database of information he had been building on Thelab. "I also know he is hunting someone within Jump City. He has killed dozens of thugs and crime bosses. While only killing one person who wasn't a criminal, a man by the name of Garfield Sharp." Bruce nodded and began to type. Garfield Sharp, former CEO and owner of Sharp Industries. A company which manufactures military-grade weaponry. Allegedly before his death Mr. Sharp had been in suspicion of selling his weapons to crime bosses and terrorist organizations, but no evidence could be brought forth to prove this. So maybe he wasn't a good man, but he didn't deserve death. Robin pointed out, causing Bruce to nod. "You're right, but I felt like knowing a little more about Mr. Sharp would help with understating why he was killed. Surely there was a motive or a reason for why this Thelab killed him." Bruce explained before waving his hand around. "But I'm getting off topic. I have more important information I want to give you about this assassin." "Like what?" "I'm sending you a file, it's security footage from Arkham. See, a few days ago your little assassin broke into Arkham, killed an inmate and broke a criminal out of maximum security." Bruce leaned back into his chair and folded his arms. While he waited for Robin to review the recording. "That's Harley Quinn, but why break her out?" Robin asked in a confused tone. "Maybe he was paid too. After all, Harley has almost limitless connections and resources. However, the inmate who was killed leaves me with a theory." Bruce explained in a low voice. "Who was killed?" Robin asked. "James King, the only man left alive from the group responsible for the massacre at the GCPD gala, which was held 11 years ago. The same event where Harley's husband and daughter were killed. Shortly after her son went missing and she went criminally insane. So it was revenge." Robin began, but Bruce seemed to disagree. "That's the quick assumption, but the crime scene showed it wasn't a clean kill. Instead James King was tortured and beaten before shot and killed by an arrow. It reminded me of a corpse after an interrogation. Whoever killed him wanted information. So there is a link between Thelab, Harley Quinn and the attack that ruined her family." Robin stated in a plain voice. "Yes, I believe Harley hired this assassin to kill the people responsible for what happened to her family. Maybe that's why he is in Jump City. This Thelab might have a lead that I couldn't find when I investigated the massacre 11 years ago. Regardless, tomorrow Bruce Wayne will pay his old friend a visit and try to get some information from her." Bruce explained before placing his cowl back over his head. "Wouldn't Batman be a better interrogator?" Robin asked. Bruce frowned under his mask. "Not when talking to a dear friend, one whose family I failed." Bruce replied in a saddened tone. Robin nodded. He knew about how Bruce would show restraint when dealing with Harley. She was a criminal, but she was still an old friend. A friend who he felt guilty for not helping more than he could. "Are you still looking for her son?" Robin asked, causing the Dark Knight to nod. "I failed him just like his mother. I should have been there for him like a godfather is supposed to." Bruce began in a low sad voice. "I will never stop looking for him." Robin nodded. "I know you won't, Bruce, that's the kind of man you are. Though it makes me think, if you did take Harley's son in, he may have been your Robin." Bruce let a small chuckle pass his lips, thinking of the young blonde he knew fighting crime by his side. It was a pleasant thought he would think about time and again. "Maybe you're right about that, but I'll contact you if I have any new information about Thelab. Keep in touch, Beep, and I'm proud of the work you're doing with your team." "Hey, tell him I said hi." A female voice yelled in the background, causing Bruce to smirk. "And Barbara says hi." Bruce quickly added. Robin smiled. "Thanks, and tell Babs and Alfred I miss them." The boy wonder began in a soft tone. "Though make sure to contact me as soon as you learn any information on Thelab. I want to stop this madman as soon as possible. Bruce nodded and ended the call, leaving Robin alone to think about what to do next. He had new leads to follow on Thelab, so he might as well start looking into them. Let's see everything I can pull up on Harley Quinn and the massacre at the GCPD ball. Robin mumbled to himself as he started to type on his computer. So this part ends here. Alright, that's it for today's video guys. Let me know in the comments section how was the story, and also don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I will meet you in another video. Bye bye.